Good morning, everyone. This is our February ESS meeting, and I'm going to start with roll call just so we make sure everybody's here. Got Travis,
Yes.
Denise,
Yes.
Jolynn. She's online. Keisha, would she join us?
Yes,
Natalie, yes. Mel Bonson,
yes.
Julie,
Yes.
myself. Jesse, David Erickson,
Yes.
and Dylan. Great, thank you, welcome. So we will take an approval, a motion and approval for the ESS Coordinating Committee meeting for January 13th, 2026.
So moved.
There a second? Second. Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve the January 13th meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Moving forward with financial reports, the 2025 fourth quarter and year-to-date reports.
Samantha, I believe, is online, so give me that.
Calendar year 2025 financial reports. Budgeted income came in at $2,010,901.06. Lisa, can you move the down?
Where are you at, Samantha?
There we go. And then budgeted expenses at $1,588,578.61 with a budgeted net income for the year of $430,322.45. For the full profit and loss for the year, budgeted income again at $2,010,901.06 with revolving income at $41,430,883.32 with a gross profit of $43,441,784.38. All right, budgeted expenses again at $1,580,578.61 with revolving expenses at $41,424,010.13 with a total net income of $146,843.47. The main difference between the budgeted P&L that was shown previously in this P&L are the revolving expenses and then also the reserve expenses. There we go. And the depreciation for the year. Balance sheet. So we have 3 balance sheets included in the packet. So this is the balance sheet before moving the accounts around. We did move the reserve accounts underneath the money market sweep account in our accounting software. I think that's good. So all of our money lives in the money market sweep account. So instead of showing, thank you, the money under the BT settlement account, we just moved it underneath the money market account. So if Lisa, if you want to go down to the next balance sheet. So now you can see all the reserve accounts underneath as sub accounts of the money market sweep account. So the money in the BT money market sweep account, other. Lisa, can you click out other? Thank you. Lisa, can you go back up?
Bill's driving.
Oh, can you go back up a little bit, Bill? So the money in December 31st in the money market sweep account of $820,872.94. This was the money in the money market sweep account that did not include the reserve funds. So if this amount would ever go negative, then you would know that we are dipping into our reserve funds in the bank. And then the following balance sheet is after we added money to the reserve accounts. We did raise the software development equipment in reserve, and then also the reduction in reserve. This was approved in the November meetings. So the BT settlement account as of December 31st, 2025 had $778,422.58. This is the total of unreconciled transactions in the accounting software. And then after increasing the software development equipment reserve and the redaction reserve, which now has $450,000 and then $50,000 respectively in it, the money market sweep account was at $1,325,737.12, with total assets and liabilities of $2,925,833.32. Fund 255, profit and loss for the year with a total net income of $6,981.92. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the financial reports for calendar year 2025.
Any questions for Samantha? I don't see any online either. I will take a motion to approve the fourth quarter and year-to-date reports.
I'll move. This is Jolene.
Thanks, Jolene. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the fourth quarter and year-to-date reports. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, moving on to the 2025 software asset report.
Okay, I'll take this one. Every year for the last number of years, we have been asked by our auditor to identify the amount of additional assets we have created with new software development. A few years ago, that was very active, particularly when we were rolling out the new version of the e-submission interface. We also rolled out a updated version of our search application. That was a significant effort and investment. And where you have seen evidence of that over the last couple of years is the amount of depreciation. So under new accounting rules that were established at the time, we previously treated that as an expense. The rules changed, said we needed to treat those as assets, but then assets that are depreciated over time, and we've continued to do that. The last couple of years, we have not been able to do as much software development actively because of limited resources, but we have done some. So the main thing that is represented in this year's report is an additional investment of $21,663.28, specifically in the API interface for the county upload API that we provide to counties to transfer their records locally up to the Iowa Land Records database. I'd have to say that over the last year or more, we've been mostly done with that, but we've kept the project open because we haven't actually moved any county into production yet. We have advised the service providers that we are ready to do that And in fact, we've extended the deadline a couple of times for them to give them more time to do that. The current deadline is now March 31st, 2026, which is just a few months away. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The chances of us actually getting that done by the end of March is almost zero at this point. But on the other hand, we continue to remind the service providers that it needs to get done. Most of the finishing touches to the API were done in 2025, and that's what this investment represents. So it is more of an accounting recognition. And when we get to, before we totally close out the books for 2025, this is an additional general journal entry that would be made to move that from an expense into the asset account. And then we'll start depreciating it as we have those other circumstances. So really no policy being made here. We're following a generally accepted accounting rule. I have reviewed this draft report on a preliminary basis with our auditor, and they did not have any questions. So we would request your approval to accept and approve this asset report as we prepare to close out 2025.
Are there any questions on this? Any online? Do not see any. Is there a motion to approve the acceptance of this?
Make the motion.
A motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Denise seconded, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It's been approved to accept the software asset report. Thank you all. All right, so we have a calendar year 2026 budget amendment discussion and approval, possible approval.
Thank you. I'll take this one too. The e-submission report for January is before you in the chart. It's that one blue dot at the beginning of the chart. It's a positive representation because if you'll notice that only a year worth below the reported amount was 2021, 2022 through 2025. We have been below that. So generally speaking, January was a pretty good month. It's too soon to really call it a trend, except to say that, when you look at the budget that you put together and approved for calendar year 2026, basically it says, well, 1 month into the year, we are on track for the budget. And so we did have some net income, and so that provides the basis for it. As we prepare for the budget, then we really do not have any significant changes in the budget as we look ahead to future months. But it is an opportunity to make an adjustment in the budget to change from budget to actual. So that is what we are doing here. So if you wanted to look at the income perspective, if you were to project ahead, we're about $4,900 ahead of an original revenue projection. And on the expense side, go back down to the bottom of the chart here for that, you can see that we are about $9,600 below the original projection for expenses, and our net income is above projection by about $14,600. So it's the right trend line. I don't have any major changes to the budget based on this information. There are a couple of highlighted items that I have, and I just want to give you a quick explanation of them. The expense for government relations services from Bob Rafferty and explaining did come in above budget, but that was really just a reporting error because the bill that we received was for the month of December. So we should see that fall back to the projected amount. Under memberships, we have been a member of the Iowa Mortgage Association for a number of years. The dues for that is $200 a year. We projected to spend that money in March, but we ended up actually spending the money in January. So we moved it out of March and into January. I think this is another one. I think this is the last one. There is a software that our developers use to manage their software development activities, basically keeping track of their code, getting it organized so that we have things separated between development, staging, and production. And the product that we use is called JetBrains. We budgeted $2,500 for that, but it appears that JetBrains changed their billing from annual to monthly. And so, no?
This was with the addition of Connor.
Oh, okay. So this was the addition. I think the addition of Connor was just part of that, though.
Okay.
And so we're going to we just basically move that number from January to February. So the actual billing we received in January was less than we would have ordinarily expected. So that is really all that's represented in the budget amendment. And I don't have any other policy to recommend. At this time, we would request your approval of the amendment.
Are there any questions for Phil on the budget amendment?
What?
I think that's just me telling you.
Gotcha.
Okay, if there is no discussion or questions for Phil, I would take a motion to approve the 2026 budget amendment. So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Julia seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, it has been moved to approve the 2026 budget amendment. Thank you. Okay, so on to contracts and agreements portion of our agenda. We have an audit engagement letter from Denman's.
Okay, you're gonna have to put up with me for a few more things. Sorry about that, everybody. The first one is the Denman engagement. So each year, as we prepare for the next year's audit process, again, we're looking back at the audit for calendar year 2025. We have worked with Denman Company for a number of years on that. And we did have a pre-audit consultation with Robert Endress, who is the lead auditor for us with Denman Company, about preparing for the 2025 audit. Denman has already provided us with our homework assignments, and Samantha has already been working on our homework. We do not have a specific audit date yet. That will be set once we have formalized the engagement with them. Most of this is standard boilerplate language, which is part of the auditor's efforts to say this is what we're going to do and this is what we're not going to do, and also declaring what our responsibilities are as managers, because they're auditing our work and they expect us to provide them with accurate information. The other salient point is the estimated cost of the audit this year is $11,000. That is the amount in the 2026 budget. We were communicating with Denman earlier this year, at the end of last year, about what the expense would be, and so this is on budget. One thing that is not necessarily included in the budget is the costs of their work to assist the association with the preparation of their 990 tax return. At this point, we are anticipating that the association will take over responsibility for that. And the main reason is because all of the activity that used to run through the association's account really have been passed through now. And we're about 2 years beyond that. So everything that needs to be included in the 990 return really is just limited to association ministerial activities and nothing related to ESS. So that expense is not reflected in this audit engagement. And I just want to be transparent about that. So with that, we would request your approval of the engagement with them in 2026 for the 2025 audit.
Is there any discussion or questions for Phil regarding the audit engagement letter? Okay, seeing and hearing none, is there a motion to approve the audit engagement letter with Denman? Okay, Julie has moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I would seek that move.
Jolyn.
Jolene? Okay.
Yep. That was me. Sorry.
Jolene?
Thanks, Jolyn. It's been moved and seconded to approve the audit engagement letter with Denman. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, moving on. The employee manual has received an update. Bill, do you have a discussion on that?
Yes, I do. I'm sorry. But I would refer you to page 30 of your packet of materials. There is a memo that we have prepared there that summarizes the proposed changes to the employee handbook. Generally speaking, when we made the switch from using paychecks as our professional employment organization over to the Des Moines company Connectify, that required us to make changes in all aspects of what we do in terms of the benefit package, how payroll is handled, how time is tracked, all those things you would expect to be part of a human resources management process. All of the references to the PEO, or Professional Employment Organization, in the handbook that we have in force today refers to paychecks. And so it was necessary for us to go through our employee handbook and make changes so that the references were adjusted to refer to Connectify. While we were in that process, we asked the Connectify team to review our handbook and identify anything that may need to be updated because of a change in law or maybe changes in best practices. And they did identify a number of areas that needed to be updated or improved. The memo specifies each of the changes that we made that were not just reference changes, but actually changes in wording or in some cases, the addition of some new language. And the changes that we made that are described in the bullet points also include the page references. I would generally say that we really did not make any substantive change in our policy. The benefit package description is the same. The PTO and time off provisions are the same. And most of the references to our benefit plans and things like workers' compensation are the same, but there have been some changes and update in the language. I would not describe anything that we have modified here to be a substantive policy change. I think the way I would describe the action is that we would request that you approve the updated version of the employee handbook so we have something officially in place that refers to Connectify instead of paychecks. However, if there is a desire of the ESS committee to do a more thorough review of the handbook, then there are processes that could be put in place to make that happen. It is not unusual for governing committees to wade into the weeds and things like this. and it would be totally okay if you said that. So, to take care of business right now, we would ask for approval of the employee handbook. Then we would ask you to, at your leisure, review the handbook. Read through it, identify any questions that you may have, and then we will work with your committee chair that if we need to establish some type of a subcommittee to review it in more detail, we can certainly do that. And I think that is going to be one of the perfect jobs for your next executive director to help you. So that's my update on that. And I would request your at least interim approval of this.
Is there any questions or discussions on bulleted items for changes in the handbook? Okay, is there a motion to approve those items to be updated in our ESS employee manual?
This is Mel. I can make that motion.
You, Mel, is there a second?
I can second. This is Keisha.
Okay, been moved and seconded to approve the employee manual update. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. All right, so we'll take that under advisement, Phil, to review that with our new director. And I just have a quick question. It's unrelated to the manual. And this might be more so for Samantha and Lisa, but I just want to make sure that you're still happy with Connectify. No issues that you're currently having. Okay.
They're a really good local company to work with a great response time. If we have a question, they're back to us within a half an hour. We have a really good representative.
Great. Thank you.
I would echo that. We found the transition to be very successful. We're still waiting to complete the full migration of the staff 401k plans from the previous provider to the new provider. That is in process. I believe we're in what they refer to as a blackout period right now, where the employees are not allowed to make changes in their plans until that transition is complete. But otherwise, we really have fully completed that transition, and the company's been very good to work with.
Thank you guys for that. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. Bill, the notification system RFQ.
Okay, well, the update on this is, and allow me a moment to scroll ahead to this. Make sure I'm on the right page. So you would be on page 73 of the packet. I hope your memories would allow you to remember that in January, you had a meeting. And at that meeting, you directed me to, I think the words were, get on with it, was the quote. And so we got on it. And so based on that general direction, we constructed an RFQ. And an RFQ is basically a request for quote. It can be distinguished from an RFP in the standpoint that we didn't start totally from scratch. And I'll explain how that works. The thing that is different about RFQ is sometimes when you already have business relationships with organizations that you know and trust and have confidence in, you can leverage a pre-existing contract to get things done without having to go through the same kind of competitive selection if you were working for somebody doing something for the first time. So one of the things that we did, and I'll go to this page so you can see what we said. We said, since we wanted to get on with it, we said, let's work with people that we already work with. So we already have software development contracts with two Des Moines area companies that we selected a number of years ago that have contracts that are still in force. And those companies are Lean Techniques and a company called We Write Code. And we've worked with both of those companies in updating our search application and our e-submission interface applications. So we have previous working experience with them. Then we said, okay, who else should we work with? And we said, well, we have maintenance agreements with software companies who provide land record management services. And so we opened up the RFQ to include them. So everybody that we have a contract with, Solutions, Harris, Tyler, DevNet, Avenue, which now is going by a different name, Numo, something like that, and Todd. We included them in the invitation to respond to the RFQ. So, according to the timetable that we set up, we published the RFQ on February 3rd. We asked those vendors if they were interested in responding to submit questions to us by February 6th. 3 companies did submit questions to us. Our practice has been, and this is standard operating procedure in the state of Iowa as well, if somebody asks a question, you summarize it and you provide the answer to everybody. And so we published the question and answer, and that document is included in your materials as well. So those answers were provided as scheduled on February 10th, and then we specified that the proposals were due on February 17th. So we have not yet had an opportunity to fully review the responses, but I can report to you that we have received 3 proposals from that group of companies. We received a proposal from both Lean Techniques and We Write Code, and we've also received a proposal from CAT Systems. So we are now in the process of reviewing those. I've invited Jesse, and I'm seeking other volunteers to work with me to review the proposals. And I'm going to just say in the next week or so, with the idea that we should explore, evaluate, and then make a decision about whether we wanted to engage any of these companies to do this work. The objective would be to complete the project by the end of June. That's sort of the goal of what this would be. For those of you who want to dig into the weeds on this, I'm going to direct you to a particular section. Allow me to scroll to it. And that section is 4.3. 4.3 begins on page 20. I'm sorry, page 92 of the packet. So a description here, without you having to read the whole thing. The summary is, first of all, over the course of the last year and a half, I think I provided the committee with 2, maybe 3 different versions of what a scope of work might look like. And building on that, we expanded it to provide a lot more detail. So the first big thing is that we're trying to leverage the search application that we already have. So instead of creating a whole new thing, we would use that so that if somebody said, I want you to monitor John Smith, or I want to monitor John Smith in Polk County and Warren County, that we would have a means to run a search on a regular basis to see has anything new been recorded with that name. Okay. So Then associated with that, before you even get that far, you have to build a method to capture and save the names that your customers give you that they want to have monitored. So you've got to create essentially a database of those names associated with those individual customers so that if anything does happen, you know what to report and you know who to report it to. So that's new software development that needs to be done. Once that is done, a search would be run, hopefully using the system that we've already have developed. And what would we be looking at? Well, we can't report on anything that we haven't received yet, okay? Because we're dependent on counties to tell us, here's the new stuff we recorded today. So what we would be looking at is within our database, what documents that were recently recorded were transferred to us yesterday. And that's what we look at. And so if anything comes in that batch, we have to pay attention to it. And then we run it through a process to see if anything happened. Then we associate it with our customer information. And then we send the notification out. Okay? The next day, the slate is wiped clean. And we look at the next day's documents that get transferred. And then we do the notifications after that. That is a shorthand way to describe how this works, but that is essentially what we're proposing to do. So, in much more detailed language, if you read through section 4.3, you can see very explicitly how we would propose to implement a name search. Now, in the past, we have talked to you about other ways to do monitoring. We're just looking at name search. Later on, we can expand the application so that it has more capabilities. But this will provide a name search, a name monitoring, name reporting system for our land records. Okay? So where we are at is, we need to have a process to finish review of the proposals we've received. We need to choose a vendor that we want to work with to get this done. We'll be working in collaboration with our internal developers. And we'll see what we can get done. And then the other thing I would say is, broadly speaking, I believe that we have the resources to make this happen. We had a good year in 2025. We put it into reserve. We have reserve funds that we can spend and not jeopardize our cash flow. And we're ready to get going. Okay. So I'm not asking you for necessarily any action today. It's on the agenda as an action item, but we're not ready for you to act. We need to do the evaluation first, choose a vendor, recommend, and finalize a plan. We do have a meeting scheduled for you on March 11th, and I think our objective would be to try to have everything buttoned up by then, and so we can move forward. If for whatever reason that doesn't happen, we might need to have a special telephonic meeting to get this done. So this is more of an update than it is an action item, but I would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Phil. Thanks for the work that you've been doing on this. Really appreciate it. Any discussion or questions from the group on it?
Just for clarification, Phil, this is not a shielding project. This is just a notification project. It's for everyone that's listening. Just so that I understand it as well too.
we are not making any representations about preventing fraud. We're viewing this as a service to the people that are interested in paying attention to what's happening with their property records. We're expanding a service that we already provide, which is a pretty darn good search system that they can just look up their records anytime they want. But this would be a notification. I would liken it to anything that you might be doing with your bank or your credit card company, that if something happens that relates to your account, you get a notification. That's all it is. And it's a pretty, as a user of those types of services, I really appreciate them. And I think customers would appreciate it too. But I also have to say that as a companion to this new application, there are probably going to be certain elements of your terms of service that say, hey, we're not making any warranty, we're not offering any guarantees. This is a service, and you have to accept it as is. And be honest with people that, you have to pay attention to your own records if you really want to prevent stuff from happening. But we can't prevent anything from happening just because of the service.
Absolutely. I appreciate you on this. I think Cook County has it in our software. And we don't get a whole lot of requests, but we have been getting more. And I think will be a great thing for us and for the citizens of the state.
How many people do you have signed up approximately? Do you know?
You know, I don't really know. I want to say 50, possibly around that. But it's been increasing. The requests been increasing. Is there a way that are we putting in here that they would drop off after so long, or if they sell the property, or do they have to go in and say I no longer need to be notified?
Well, user accounts that we have, I think that a very good part of this is that if you are a registered user of our search or our East Mission application, you're automatically going to get access to this notification service. So if you want to keep it active, you need to keep your account active. You can't just forget about it. We do have a description in the section here, 4.3, that says if you became an inactive user, we would keep the notification system in place for a year. Then, if you want to come back in, you can set up your notifications again just by setting up a new free account. So that's the way we propose to handle that. I think a year, if you keep your account active, it stays active as long as you keep your account active. But if you drop out, then we're not keeping those in perpetuity. So there are some constraints on that, but it's easy to get back in, even if you drop out.
Just as a reference, here in Lynn County, we have 3,200 subscribers for our PFA.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. Erin also mentioned she has 160 subscribers as well.
And now, anytime you file a deed now, those private companies that do a lot of marketing are sending direct mailers out to anyone who gets a new deed filed too. So now they're getting deals saying, hey, by the way, you should pay us $200 a year for the service that is just a notification system. So I think having a statewide system will help us say, as attorneys, disregard that notice and go to land records or your county recorder if they already have one and sign up for the free service. So
Dylan, do you have information on the occurrence of deed fraud in Iowa?
I do. So we paid one claim 2 years ago for a deed fraud one, cost us a little over $200,000.
For a second, Dylan,
yeah.
will you step up here and say what you're saying here, because they can't hear you online. I think it's important they do hear that. And will you address also again what you just said about attorneys and the companies?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, sorry.
So it started, I don't know when it started, but I've seen it in the last 2 to 3 months where anytime you file a deed now, especially if you're doing estate planning into a trust, some of these private companies will send a very official looking notice saying you should sign up for this notification system, and it's setting forth the fee and all that stuff. I think it'd be beneficial to be able to say you can go to the statewide system, or I mean, if the county already has it, you can send them there. The second question was on prevalence of deed fraud in Iowa. ITG paid a claim. It was 2 years ago. It was a $200,000 claim on deed fraud here in Polk County. We've noticed some other attempts. There was a really public one in Iowa City last summer. A piece of property was one of the usual ones where they contacted a listing agent, got it listed on the MLS. Luckily, the property owner saw it a couple hours after it was listed and got it taken down. Then 10 more times they went to different agents trying to sell a piece of property. So I mean, and I've heard of a handful of others. It doesn't happen. It's not every day, but it's certainly a couple times a year that these happen, and they're getting more and more sophisticated. So
how do those companies get the addresses? Like, are they farming that in some way?
they have to be farming the recorded docs somehow and getting the return to address.
Interesting. We get people coming in all the time to my office with very official looking things, and so
if you're an unknowing consumer, you're gonna say, "Oh, I really need to pay this."
Yeah,
it's like when you buy a house and ADT shows up at your front door and says, "Your real estate agent told me to come here and set you up." I mean, unfortunately, it's the next. I'll take that.
Glad to see that we're getting on board with this. I know we've been discussing it, for quite some time before there is a mandate for us to say that we do have it, being proactive.
Yes.
any other questions, even for Dylan, since he's here?
Are there any other questions in chat? Lisa?
I do have a question for Dylan. Sorry, this might sound. So ITG, you guys are currently selling insurance, or you have always sold insurance, correct?
Well, not insurance or a guarantee. But yeah, so we've always provided coverage under our forms for when someone buys a property and then back in time. Say that either their purchasing the property was not a nature of fraud, or there wasn't fraud in the past. The newest coverage that we started offering in December says from the date we issued that coverage forward, if someone tries to impersonate you and sell your property while it doesn't prevent it, we will then be on the financial hook for resolving that.
Thank you.
There's a question in the chat from Carlene. She says, most of our customers are not Iowa Land Record users. So should we look into paying our software companies to provide this service instead of waiting for this option through Iowa Land Records? Yeah, I mean, it is up to you, Carlene, if that's what you choose to do. I mean, we are working on this. They can still sign up for the service for free once it's developed.
I do recall, I would just add a comment that at some point, one of the meetings that we had, I've lost track of where somebody said, well, can we help our customers sign up for this? And the answer is yes. We have a very simple sign up form. We'll probably have a new version of a sign up form, and it will be on a public facing web page. And if any of your customers said, hey, I would like to sign up for this, you could literally help them go to that web page and help them fill out that form. And then, they may not want it, but if they did that, they would automatically get access to the search application as well. So to me, it's kind of like a bonus situation. So if you are a recorder and you have a customer or constituent who says, I want to sign up for this, it's going to be fairly straightforward and accessible to you as a public service to help them get signed up. If on the other hand, you want to do something extra That's totally up to you.
And Dylan, there's a question about your program. There's no notification when documents are filed. It's only when fraud has been reported to you.
Well, right. So we don't ourselves have a notification system. We do direct everyone who purchases a new product to sign up for a notification system if it exists in their county.
Thank you.
Any other discussions on this? So not an action item. Kelly, Speeds just posted, we have people almost daily asking about fraud. We are getting fraud guard through Tyler until the statewide system, so we can have both services working at the same time. Did I hear you say that your service would be on the hook for anything missed if they are not contracted? Is that, I'm assuming, for Dylan? I don't understand, I guess, the question.
Kelly, we may need some clarification on your question. Is that question for Iowa Land Records or for Dylan and Iowa Title Guarantee? Yes, you can have both services running at the same time. And the question is for Dylan. So,
So the question, Dylan, is your service, is it on the hook for anything missed if the individuals are not contacted?
So our service provides coverage regardless if they're contacted or not, right? Because we provide our service for the fraud, not the notification.
Mm-hmm.
So the why I want folks to sign up for the notification is it can help me not to pay further loss. So if someone buys a piece of property and no one's notified about it and they start improving the property and then they're notified later, that's further loss that either I'm going to have to pay out or the property owners and the true owners are going to have to work through. So that's
okay. Thanks, Dylan. Mel has also commented. She says she's not looking elsewhere. It's not affordable for our county, and software providers are not providing one sign-in for 99 counties. If a fraudulent power of attorney was filed without illegal in a different county, then they own property that has allowed them to close bank accounts, etc. This system would notify them. Okay. Thanks, Mel.
So I've obviously been getting a lot of phone calls about this stuff too.
Talk loud.
I'm talking as loud as I can. And obviously, as we've said, the people I talk to, I make sure to let them know, you're getting a notification, it's already done. So what's happened has already happened. So it's not going to prevent anything from happening. And I just think there's a false sense of security about some of this stuff. I do agree that it's, definitely something that's advantageous for the average, customer, homeowner, constituent, whatever. But that is one thing when I'm getting these phone calls, I'm definitely telling them, yeah, this is something that is coming. And I make sure to explain to them these marketing companies that are trying to sell this. It says, what are you really getting out of it? What the damage is done once you get notified of these things. So I feel like the general public gets this false sense of security when they've signed up for something like this, that, oh, this is going to prevent anything from happening. It doesn't. Obviously, it doesn't, because once the document's filed, that's when you get the notification. So I just wanted to throw that comment out there that when people are calling into my office, I'm making sure that they know that that is the case.
So to tag on to that, Travis, I also, one of the things that I talk about too, like the fraud has to occur in order for us, not us, but law enforcement to capture these people.
Correct.
That's the unfortunate reality, and
It's not fraud card.
yeah.
Well, it's just like when a few years ago at the PREA meeting in, I want to say Omaha, when they had some, discussions about this, an entire, session on it. In Michigan, they do these sorts of stings where they're waiting in the lobby of the registrar's office for the person to file the fraudulent deed before they, swoop in like the SWAT team and arrest them. It has to happen first. Otherwise,
Yes.
there's nothing to it.
So there's another comment on here that says, remind me, customers will have to select the county or counties they want to monitor when enrolled. It doesn't cover the entire state unless they select all 99 counties.
Well, that actually hasn't been designed or decided yet. So I think I think kind of where we're leaning at this moment is that you would have the option to choose the whole state or some specific counties. If you really don't have property in certain counties, why are you doing that? On the other hand, if you do, we're not. The important thing is that we could not do a effectively a statewide search of all 25 million records in our database. That's just not a realistic expectation. But we're not doing that. We're saying, show me all the records that were transferred to ILR that were recently recorded yesterday. Okay, that's a much smaller subset to search on. And because of that, a broader search from a multi-county perspective becomes more realistic. So that is one of the things that I think from a design perspective has not yet been finalized. But the driver is not to limit somebody, arbitrarily. The driver is, we want a functioning search that really works and doesn't die. And we just have to make sure that we design it in the correct way. That's part of the task ahead of us.
Okay, I have another question from Kelly Spee. So when they sign up, are you putting a disclaimer about how this works or doesn't work the way people think, or an overview of what you are providing? And I asked her for clarification if this was for counties that already have a notification or a record system.
I think there are two ways that the communication would occur, maybe even three. Probably something that says in the application form itself, beware, this is not the panacea. Probably something maybe incorporated in the training videos that we will undoubtedly create to help people understand, what it's used for and what maybe it's not built for. And then I assure you, or I'm going to strongly recommend, since I don't know if I'll be here at that point, but somewhere in the terms of service is going to have to say what the limits are, just from a liability standpoint.
Another comment is, so who is fielding the questions and inquiries when several John Smiths get a statewide notification? Will the notification tell them to contact Iowa Land Records or the county if they have questions?
Well, I think generally speaking, I would advise John Smith maybe to narrow the search to the counties where he owns property in order to avoid those, false positives. But if they do get, I would say this about any customer, when they get a notification, it's going to say, this document type with this name was recorded in this county on this date. And the county is the best source of information about a recorded document, not us. So I'm going to say, I think the standard operating procedure probably will be to refer the individual to the county. But there are ways to prevent setting it up so that John Smith doesn't get false positives for 95 counties that John Smith doesn't own property in.
So will the committee make those decisions or the recommendation of, I guess, you and Jesse or whoever else is looking at that? Back in that 4.6
Three.
Three, yeah, those specifications, and you said some of those weren't completely addressed yet, so.
Well, you know, it's been a few years since we had enough resources to do really cool software development stuff. But I can share with you that our practice has always been to cycle back through our constituents and say, hey, you like A or B? We've done that with our stakeholder groups. We've done it with reporters. You should expect us to do the same thing once we get into development.
There was another comment in here about promoting the notification system, which of course we'll be working with Kristen and the communications team on making sure that we promote the new Iowa Land Records service. Okay, any additional questions from the committee? Okay, moving on. The ESS director search.
Did we approve that or what are we?
We do not approve anything right now.
I just
kind of, yeah. So they still need to go through what they've received and
Okay.
provide additional feedback.
Thank you.
So,
Sorry.
okay, so back to our director search. We interviewed a total of 7 candidates for the executive director position, and we invited 3 candidates into second round interviews last week. All of them were really qualified applicants. But Tuesday, I did extend an offer to Jamie Hoffman to become our executive director. She has extensive executive leadership and software development experience, as well as experience in project management within those leadership roles that she has had. She also really has a lot of qualities that exude servant leadership, which we really liked. We were also really impressed with the research that she did on Iowa land records prior to her interview. She brought in a lot of great questions regarding the system, and she even had suggestions for our development team on improvements on our search portal. So Jamie has been extended an offer of $140,000 a year and it will also include benefits. And I am pleased to report that she has verbally accepted our offer. This does fit within our pre-approved budget of $16,000 monthly for the director position. We did extend Jamie an invitation to attend ISAC on March 13th, which is our tentative date for Iowa Land Records to present to the association. Her official start date, she would like to be Tuesday, March 24th. We've got spring break coming up and she has some little, so that fits best with her family needs. So I do want to thank Lisa and Samantha and our search committee, which was myself, Natalie, and Stacy, Julie, and Travis. We put in some grueling hours on this process. And we're glad to kind of see it come to an end and excited to have Jamie on board. There is going to be a formal offer letter, which is in the process, along with the proposed compensation package. And like I said, it's within our approved 2026 budget. So on behalf of our search committee, I'm going to request your approval of the appointment of Jamie Hoffman to be our next executive director.
I will make that motion. This is Travis. I also just want to say this was I'll second that this was a long and grueling process. I've never sat through so many Zoom calls and in-person meetings, and it's been a lot, but the search committee did a great job. We had great candidates. It's been a wild ride the last couple of weeks. So, but I will make the motion to approve that. So,
No second.
So Travis has moved to approve Jamie Hoffman to be our next executive director. Julie has seconded. All those in favor say aye.
I want to make a
Oh,
quick
sorry.
point is that Samantha and I sat in on all 7 Zoom interviews after we reviewed approximately 150 resumes. That was brutal. I had to go home and sit in the dark one night and let my brain decompress. I'm not even kidding. And then the candidates that were called for a second round of interview, the entire ILR team met with all 3 of them. And before the recorders met with them. And we all agreed with Jamie as the candidate.
Okay,
This
so
is Jolynn. This is Jolynn. That's good to hear. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, the search committee, ILR. Thank you. I know it's been a long process and a lot of extra work, so I appreciate each and every one of you. So thank you.
And this is Mel. I want to echo that and say thank you to the search committee for taking on more and looking as well. It was some big shoes that you guys were looking to fill, but but it's really appreciated, all the time and effort by the Iowa Land Records staff and then that volunteer committee. So thank you.
I'm just pleased that we didn't have to hire 4 people to fill one position.
Don't mind.
okay, so again, it's on the table. It's been moved and seconded to approve her appointment as executive director. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So I do briefly, Jamie is on the call today. So I'm gonna call her Director Jamie because I know there are both of us. She actually has 2 M's in her name, but Jamie, if you are there and would like to share a few words with the committee and with those of us that are online, please feel free to do so.
Hey everybody, my name is Jamie Hoffman. I'm really excited to join you guys today and just kind of listen through what's typically discussed at these quarterly meetings. And I'm very excited to work with the team and dig in and get started, understanding the, the full scope of the work. I really look forward to working with each of you. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Okay, sigh of relief here. Sorry. It was a grueling process, so I am honestly feeling a little emotional. Okay, so moving forward, our office space relocation, we have a pretty big packet on this. If everybody had a chance to read through all of the notes. I did come up yesterday and reviewed 2 of the locations with the team, one on 72nd Street and one at Westtown Parkway. And this is just my 2 cents before I'll let Phil and Lisa and Samantha chime in. Both decent locations, night and day difference. The cost difference is $1,000 between 72nd and Westtown Parkway. Westtown Parkway is a more expensive option. But I will say that I did a pretty thorough inspection of 72nd Street, and there is a lot of mold at this property, which I have great concern about for our staff being in there. Like I said, it's a cheaper option here, but I'm really struggling to put our staff in a location like that. So this is just my personal recommendation that we move forward with the Westtown Parkway option. But I will let Lisa, Phil, Samantha chime in as well.
So we started this process a month ago with requests going to some brokers within the metro area, as telling them what we were looking for, the number of square feet, the location. I don't believe we said price in the request. We received 30 properties back. We reviewed all of those, as well as 10 more that were identified through LoopNet, which is commercial real estate. We identified 9 to search, to visit and look at them. Some of them were simply too big. Some of them were too small. The one that was my sweet spot was a great location, but it doesn't have a conference room. We would be in a hallway and it's not big enough. And so as we went through the process, we did determine that the location at 29, is it 2910 or 2909?
2910.
2910 Westtown is the best location for us. If you're familiar with West Des Moines and know where Clock Tower is, there's a TJ Maxx there. It's kind of directly behind there. It's a first floor space with separate offices, a conference room space. Restrooms are in a common area. But it's good. It's got the office spaces that we all need. It's got good natural light, which is important to the team. Travis is looking, you could pull it up. And even though it says here that it's about $1,000 more, in reality, it's not quite that much because cleaning is included, utilities are included. There's a 3% annual increase, and they are agreeable to a 3-year lease. If you, Phil, go back down to the front of the building. Keep going down. So if you're looking at that picture, the far right on the lower level would be our space. So main door and first door on the right as you come in. So I'd be open to questions anyone may have. Phil, Sam, do either of you have commentary?
Sam.
Okay, Samantha?
I think both locations are great. I'm honestly don't want to deal with site space anymore. However, 72nd Street location would be completely redone. Both locations are great. My 2 cents.
So the 72nd Street does require a lot of rehab. There is concern that it would not be ready by sort of the end of March, which was our target to leave this space. Neither one of the spaces is as nice as what we have here. That's bottom line. It's just not. But I think that the Westtown location is closer to that.
My comments would be, my job was to facilitate a process. And, I do have connections to the commercial real estate brokerage community throughout the Des Moines area. I've worked with them in other roles for a long time. They were very responsive. We shared with them that the preference was to be in the western suburbs area. We shared with them the preference of, the amount of space and how it should be configured. And I would say the brokers who responded, did a great job. We did a desk review for most of the properties, as Lisa said. We identified 9 specific properties to do initial site visits with. And, one of the lessons I think you took away from it is that it is a true statement that there is a ton of office space available in the Des Moines area, but most of it does not fit this situation. It's way too big, or it's too small, or it just doesn't fit. And we ended up with 3 properties that we really dug in on. We visited multiple times. Those 3 are represented in your packet. Then I would say, from a staff perspective, it really zoned in on those 2 final properties. We did another round of site visits. I understand the concern about the current condition of 72nd Street, the 72nd Street property, but both owners were very motivated. And if we had the patience, I think most of those issues at 72nd could be addressed. But Westtown is pretty much ready to move in at this juncture. And the other thing about Westtown is that there's an opportunity to maybe bring the software developers back into the office, at least part-time, at this location. There is not that opportunity on 72nd Avenue. That's just too small. And then the bottom line is that once you do all the math and look at the 2026 budget that you approved, this is under budget. And it includes services that you would otherwise have to pay for separately that are also in the budget that now don't have to be there anymore. So on balance, I would agree with the sentiment that this is probably the best choice. And notwithstanding my enjoyment of having the project working out of my office, you know, I think extreme separation is probably the best thing for everyone. And so I would endorse what Jamie and Lisa have recommended.
I just want to thank Phil for giving us a home all these years and providing us space, very nice space.
It's gorgeous compared to our options, truly.
And affordable.
My question would be 72nd is quite a bit less, looking at the monthly cost, I guess, for at least the rental or the lease. But what else does that not include? So so Westtown includes everything, right?
So so 72nd, there is common area fees that are about about 750. So that would be added to it to get us to 2,500. And then we'd have to have cleaning. There's also a concern there about HVAC maintenance that we could have to pay up to $1,500.
That's an annual cost, correct?
Annually, right.
It's not a big deal.
Right.
You said Westtown included the utilities.
I don't remember about utilities for Westtown. I
But
think yes.
utilities are included
Yes.
in Westtown.
For both, I mean, for office furniture, is that a separate expense? Or is that budgeted?
And we tentatively set a expenditure of about $10,000 for that. Because we'll need desks, chairs, desk mats, conference room furniture. Everything here belongs to Phil. Oh, and Corey is saying we also will need to purchase a refrigerator and microwave. There's a small kitchen space within our space.
And that is only at the Westtown location. The 72nd location does include a microwave and refrigerator.
It's the other way around. At Westtown, we need the microwave and the refrigerator.
That's what,
Yes.
what is it? 72nd has that.
That's what I said.
So I think what we're looking for is an authorization for us to negotiate a lease with the broker or landlord at Westtown Parkway. Dylan, thank you.
It's Natalie, sorry, another question. Do we want the new director to have a say or a look at any of this, or?
Yeah, so Jason was invited along yesterday. She had some illness in her family and she couldn't attend. And she did tell me that she placed her trust in Lisa and the crew to make the best decision for the team.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So yes, thank you for that question.
I'll
Okay, so
second the motion.
Okay, so Dylan motioned, Travis seconded to have the team negotiate a lease agreement on the Westtown Parkway location. All those in favor?
This is a 3-year, we're trying to do a 3-year lease. Is that what I understand?
Both, I should say, all of the properties were requesting a 5-year lease.
5 years?
Both of these final 2 properties suggested that they might be willing to do 5 years with a 3-year opt-out, with some consideration for whatever they invested into improving the properties. And then the last communication that we had, this was not a formal offer, but the Westtown property expressed some willingness to consider a 3-year lease.
And the improvements for us to move in there are pretty minimal. We've asked for new paint and new carpet. And it's really just kind of normal wear and tear. So, but it does need new carpet. I don't think, especially in the what would be the conference room space, it's pretty beat up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, so again, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Westtown location negotiation. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay. Bill, you have recorder governance?
I would like to recommend that we defer that until we do the legislative presentation. Next is scheduled to be with us at 12:30. Dylan has asked for some time on the agenda to give an update on, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this right, FinCEN residential reporting rule. And
Yeah. You can sit down, Jamie. I'll go over here. So, Julie actually reached out with a question a couple weeks ago on this because it's starting to percolate up, and I thought it'd be nice, just a good opportunity to get you all kind of familiar with it and ease any concern that recorders have on this. So, FinCEN is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. It is a part of the U.S. Department of Treasury and is really a intelligence agency for the federal government with financial crimes. It was set up, I think, as part of the Patriot Act, but I'm not entirely sure on that. So what FinCEN has ordered by a rule that went through the rulemaking process about a year ago is that for certain transactions that close on or after March 1st of this year, essentially title companies and then some other parties are going to have to report a good amount of information up to the federal government for, like I said, certain transactions. So in the slides, I've got, this is all from a presentation that we did a while ago, but if you go, if we go to page 162, actually, this gets into what transactions we're talking about. Oh, one more. There we go. So ultimately, right now, this only applies to residential property, which for FinCEN is either 1 to 4 unit or vacant land intended to be improved. And so that's what our commercial department is looking at this as well. If it's true commercial land, true ag land, this rule doesn't apply. Then the buyer or the transferee has to be an entity. So if the buyer or transferee is an individual, a human, this rule doesn't apply. But if they're an LLC, a trust, it could apply. And then get into some really nitty gritty here, but essentially if you don't have a traditional lender, so if you don't have a regular lender, then you start doing some more due diligence on whether it's reportable. We go to 165.
Okay.
So this is where then what the rule sets up is who actually reports the information. And if it's the first one is the closing or settlement agent. So for almost every transaction that at least ITG is concerned about, that's going to be the person who has to do the reporting. It comes down to the third one. So if there is no closing or settlement agent and there is no transferee or a settlement statement on the third one, the second one, on the third one, the person actually files the deed has to file this report. And that's where it could potentially implicate recorders, just in the fact that if for some reason FinCEN thought there was a transaction out there that wasn't reported, I could see them coming to you all asking for information on who recorded that document. Because that's going to be, they're going to figure out who, the baseline is, if you are required to report and you don't, you are subject to civil and or criminal liability to the federal government. So if they need to figure out who filed the document, they could be coming to the recorders to figure that out. Otherwise, there's no implication to accounting offices. It is solely on closing agents, title underwriters, deed filers, deed preparers, and that sort of stuff. So, so this is taking effect March 1st. It's a big concern for us in the title insurance, title underwriting world, but luckily everyone else is spared. So that was just kind of the short on that. Happy to answer any questions or anything.
So Dylan, for Iowa Land Records, on occasion, we'll get a phone call that says, hey, who submitted this? It got recorded and who submitted it? Sometimes we can tell, that it's Bob's law firm. Sometimes we can't. because it came through one of our larger submitters, like
Yeah.
Simplifile. And so all we can say is you can contact them because they can tell.
Right.
So that doesn't change for us.
I wouldn't say so.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, that I'm not aware of any requirement in this rule that recorders have to be more particularly know who files the documents.
Okay,
That's always been one of my things. So primarily I'm talking to closing companies, but abstractors sometimes will do a courtesy file. If they do that in person, my thing's always been, well, how do they figure that out? I'm not aware if you guys have a ledger of so-and-so walked in at this time and filed a deed, but if we don't have that, I don't understand how they're going to know this information. But
Julie, you have abstractors that record, correct?
oh yeah,
Do you keep track of who brings them in?
No, we don't keep track of bringing them in, but there is a spot right in there, 3 inches that says prepare where you go back to.
right. And so then that gets down into the very last one, the drafter. Yeah.
So Mel Bonson posted in our chat. So if the document preparer is an individual and not an attorney, they would need to do it and know that they need to do it.
Yeah.
Correct.
That is the unfortunate part. Yeah.
And I just
So-
unmuted. So my follow-up is, are there brochures or a handout that we could send back with like recorded documents or give to filers to
I think
let
it's
them
a good-
know?
I think it's a good question. I think the question, right, is whether you want to put that responsibility on yourself. And if I were in your shoes, I probably wouldn't. But yeah, I think too, the likelihood of FinCEN going after, Joe Smith transferring on his own his property into the Joe Smith LLC is probably limited. And there are exceptions in the rule too. It's not as cut and dry as I've made it because the rule is about 100 pages. The FAQs are a couple hundred pages. So I've simplified it. I just don't know to say you guys want to wade into that responsibility. And given the complexity of the rule, there is not like a 1-page document, quite frankly.
So is there sorry, I was listening to you talk instead of looking at this, but is there contact information? Like if they have questions, like attorneys and stuff like that?
They can reach out to me and I'll
Okay.
hand them off to somebody else in my office, but yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Any other questions for Dylan? Okay. Thank
Thank
you, Dylan.
you.
Appreciate that. Thanks, Dylan. Thanks, Dylan. Okay. We have time to do,
Yes, you do. We've been moving about that. So
great. So we, still continuing after the Benson, report from Dylan. Policies and procedures, the finance committee has, gave their blessing on chapter 1, amendments. And so it's now up to this committee to do approval. So Phil, do you want to give us an update on that?
So this has been a discussion that extends back into 2025. I think the first serious conversation we had about it was Jamie had communicated with us, or Chair Jamie had communicated with us about the work that a working group of the Reporters Association had conducted, and there were some components of that related specifically to the finance subcommittee and their operations. So we took it to the finance subcommittee and say, okay, what would you like to do with this? And then they said, well, we'd like to do some outreach with our members in our districts to get their ideas. That happened. I would just generally say didn't get a lot of feedback from the finance subcommittee members as a result of that outreach effort, but we did get some. And then because I'm perhaps most familiar with the operating procedures, took the input that we did receive and then added recommendations that seemed to fit within the general framework of being a little bit more elaborate in describing what the current practices are. So things that we were doing weren't necessarily codified. And just a simple example of that is that the Finance Subcommittee has had practice of allowing the chair to make motions. Okay, is that okay or not? The Finance Subcommittee, even though it didn't say this anywhere in the policies and procedures, they nominated and elected Stacy to be the chair of that committee. And for the last several years, she's acted as the chair, facilitating, voting like any other member, but she really has acted as a facilitator of the Finance Subcommittee. So we took all of those kind of existing procedures and then put it in writing and said, if this were a policy, what would it say? So we brought that back in the January meeting to say, okay, here it is. What do you want to do with this? And the Finance Subcommittee said, well, we'd like to go out one more time to our respective districts and see if they have any input, which they did to varying degrees. And then we had the meeting of the Finance Subcommittee earlier this month to say, what did you learn? And generally speaking, I think the answer was, well, it seems like everybody's okay with this. So I'm not presenting anything new to you. This is the same document that we presented previously. The January 8th memo is simply a summary of what's in the draft policy. And the Finance Subcommittee, their chair is with us today, basically said, let's advance this to the ESS Coordinating Committee for action. And I would interpret that as them saying, yeah, we're okay with this. So I'm going to now defer to your Finance Subcommittee chair to elaborate further. And I'm sure both of us would be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thanks, Bill. So a lot of this stemmed from when we went through the 28E and policy and procedures work group. I would say the meat of it is codifying that the ESS Finance Subcommittee is really appointed or delegated by the coordinating committee. So we put in like the section 1.6 that after following the organizational meeting of the ESS coordinating committee in January, that's where they are giving the blessings to the finance subcommittee and who those members are from those districts. So that's what 1.6 elaborates to. We talked about term limits. So this includes a total of no more than 3 consecutive terms for the members, the appointed members of the finance subcommittee. Let's see, what else did we talk about? It talks a little bit about the reserve funds and the annual budget procedure. We review and make recommendations to the ESS coordinating committee, but we do not, we're not the deciding factor of the budget. That's you all. You all are the governing board of ESS. So that's basically, it's just spelled out in the policy. So we figured as long as we were reviewing it, we might as well just add some more details to exactly what we're doing on this finance subcommittee. So I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Are there any additional questions on the finance procedures that have been updated? Any online? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the amendments to chapter 1 of the finance procedures.
I'll move.
Julia's moved. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second this, Jolene.
You've been beat, Jolyn, sorry.
You're right, no problem. No problem.
It has been moved and seconded to approve these amendments to the finance procedures. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Moving forward. We've got several project updates from Phil, so if you want to dive in.
You bet. Guys, you were doing great on time today. So thank you. I'll start with the software developer onboarding. As you may recall that we did hire a new software developer to be a member of the team to fill a vacancy that's been open for about a year. We kept it open because we just had too much turmoil going on. Myrna was out for a while, and then Nancy was out for a while, and we just needed to kind of get things settled there before we filled it. Also, we wanted to make sure we were okay from a budget perspective, which 2025 turned out to be really better than expected. So we made a recommendation to proceed with filling the position. Connor Lynn was hired as a developer, and my report to you is that he is fitting in very, very nicely. He had the opportunity to meet some of the search committee members as a part of that process, and it was reported to me that he was a very good contributor to that discussion. And I've also heard reports that he is very comfortable working with this team, that there are characteristics of this team that he has found very positive, that he did not experience in his previous work environment, which is a very good sign. And he really has been a pleasure to work with. And so I just want to report the early indicators are that this was a very good hire, and we're looking forward to him completing his onboarding process and getting acclimated to all of the code in the Owl land record system and helping us start addressing a very big backlog of things that we would like to do. So that is my update. But we hope to have Connor at the March meeting so that many of you will have an opportunity to get acquainted with him. But
Very nice young man.
Yeah, he's fitting in well. He said that our team was in the interviews with our candidates, that we were all very kind and forgiving. And I do think he and Nancy and Myrna are working well together. So I know Nancy mentioned that Connor had made some changes to some code. So we're going to test that and then deploy it to production.
okay, very good. That's all I have on that topic.
Thanks.
The next topic is on WordPress updates. So, in summary, I'm sure we've covered this many times before, but as a reminder, Iowa Land Records has several primary applications or programs. We have a search program, we have an e-submission program, actually two different pieces of it, a recorder interface and a submitter interface, and a variation on that for people who want to communicate through the API. We also have a payment application, and that handles thousands of transactions a year. And if you look at the audit, you know that we do more than $30 million of transactions every year through the system. So the finance application, the payment application is very important. We also have an administrative application, the things that Lisa and Corey and the rest of us on the administrative team use to keep things running, for all you recorders who call in and say, please reset that group. That is how we do that through our administrative application. None of that is in a public-facing web page, okay? We have a central authentication system. You have to be a registered user. You have to have certain permissions to access those different applications. So we needed something. We've always needed something. It used to be in the applications themselves, but a few years ago, we made the decision, this happened back in 2018, that we wanted to have a set of web pages to share information with people in the public that you didn't require to be logged in for. Okay. And that is where the current website originated. It's where the tagline search, submit, succeed was introduced. And it is where you would go to fill out an application to be a submitter, to be a searcher, or in the future, a notification recipient. That set of web pages is all built on WordPress. And it's a very common platform for public facing web pages. And it's one that is supported by the software community, both from a creative perspective as well as from a security perspective. And in 2025, we've had internal discussions to say, okay, we need to update this. There are things that just because of age and things that change in the internet that we had to update because they weren't working anymore. In reviewing the options, we could have identified that we need to just go out and build a custom website from scratch and just code it ourselves. Or we could have gone and licensed somebody else's system to do that. We made the decision that would be most practical for us to continue to use the WordPress platform. So we issued an RFP to identify firms that could help us update our website. We went through that process and we selected the company Visionary, a Des Moines area company. And I just want to report to you that we have completed that engagement with them and work has started. We are currently in the audit phase where they are reviewing our existing website, helping document what works, what doesn't, how things should be improved. And we're in the middle of that process right now. Sometime in March, we're going to be converting over to the development phase. Our intention generally is, the ESS logo, the Alma Land Records logo that we use, we're not looking to change and throw that out. Some of the color schemes that we use, we're kind of looking to not deviate from that too significantly. But functionally speaking, the posting of information on the website, the access to training videos and training information, the access to recorder information, like the recorder's directory, and the development of the next generation of search tips is all incorporated within that mix. And then in addition to that, we're looking at making some changes in the so-called Recorders Hub, where we are posting information that is specifically of interest to members of the Alma County Recorders Association. So my report to you is that the process has kicked off. We're in the audit phase right now. When we get together in March, we might have an update for you on some of the early developments that work that is going to be done. And again, in this case, we're looking to have that project completed by the end of June. So just wanted to let you know that we're actually following through on the things that we started a month or so ago. Questions?
I'm sure this is, but the new ADA compliance laws is included in this update. There were some things that were passed on that.
The answer to that is yes, that we will be reviewing the public facing web pages to ensure that we are as compliant as we can be. I am going to make a comment that, some people looking at that, there's almost fear in their eyes that, if they don't do it right, they're going to go to jail or something. And I think it's important that we not overreact. We're going to make a good faith effort to improve those public facing web pages. And I think we're going to make sure that whatever notification application that we built, that we're going to be paying attention to those things as well. I do not want to lead anybody to believe that all of our behind the registration wall, we're going to be able to make everything perfect. We just do not have the bandwidth to do that. And I don't really believe that we have to. For example, we have 25 million records in our database. It sort of is what it is. And I don't think we're going to be in a position to modify every PDF that we display. It's a historical record. And a read of the law suggests that those types of archival documents really are not what they're trying to do. So the things that we really have that are public facing, we're going to be reviewing the requirements of the changes in the law and making adjustments where appropriate. And to Natalie's question earlier, as those developments occur, you're going to be able to look at what we're doing and say, well, you didn't fix that, or, you need to do this. So you'll have a chance to review some of those things as they're in development and before we're done.
Thank you, Phil. Any other questions for Phil on that? Thank you.
I'm going to defer to Samantha to give an update on the cost sharing credits and maintenance invoices.
Sure. In November, it was approved for us to go ahead and calculate those maintenance invoices. They were sent out on January 20th. I believe I only have about 20 invoices that haven't been, or payments that haven't been received. But otherwise, for those 20 counties that are haven't paid yet, you do have until July 31st, if you needed to move that into the next fiscal year.
Thank you, Samantha. Any questions for her on that? All right.
I addressed the next issue a little bit earlier, but I'll do it again. And that is that most of the local service providers have completed their updates to the e-submission API. The primary vendor that has not yet completed that task is Tyler Technologies. We're beyond the expiration date. We're encouraging them to get it completed as soon as possible. My understanding is that they are somewhere in testing, but it hasn't happened yet. All right.
And I don't think, my opinion is, and if Myrna and Nancy were here, they would, and Connor, it's not all on them that this is not complete, because we have limitations on our end too. So I believe Julie at Tyler is waiting for a response from Myrna. So we'll follow up with her.
On the other hand, we really have not had any substantive progress from a developer, I should say from a local service provider perspective on the county upload API. And we're not going to meet that deadline. We're probably going to have to push it back again. Pardon me. What I would generally say to you all is an encouraging word from county recorders to their respective service providers might be very helpful at this juncture. That's all I have on that. So I wish I had better news there, but it is what it is.
Thank you. Point of sales update.
I'm deferring to Samantha on that.
Okay. There are kind of two parts to this update. One part would be the POS system, and then the other part being USA ePay for e-submission payments. At the beginning of 2026, we had a pretty good handful of machines that started reporting a day later. When that happens, I don't get the transactions until a day later, which also delays payment to the counties an extra day. Those counties have been communicated with, the machines have been updated, and I am continuously monitoring this situation. And I will communicate with any additional counties if those machines do end up reporting later than they should be. The second half is the USAE pay update. During the last few months of 2025, several temporarily unable to process transaction errors were showing up. This occurred both with ACH and credit card transactions. Interaction with USAE Pay, didn't go as smoothly as we felt it should. In several instances, it would take several days in between responses from the company. During that time, Professional Solutions team was brought into the conversation. When the error occurred, the payment wouldn't fully settle for payment, and in turn, our system would attempt to charge that account the following day. However, the original transaction would sometimes settle at a later time, causing the customer to be charged twice. Additionally, in several cases, the customer would be double charged and the county would also be paid twice. The issue, I feel, has been since resolved. However, the outcome from the experience has resulted in a representative from the Professional Solutions team and the ESS team to maybe start exploring other alternatives to the USA ePay system. And we will give you further updates as that conversation continues.
Thank you, Samantha. I appreciate your work on that. I'm gonna keep pushing us right along. Just saying out loud, Southwest Iowa is set to hit 4 to 7 inches of snow, and it's coming. So, my husband has advised me to get on the road as soon as I can. So, we are on the NUSIS migration.
I just mainly want to report you that, as we move away from SUSE, which is a flavor of Linux, to a different one, Ubuntu. Don't ask me to spell that for you. It is something that we've continued to work on through the second half of 2025, and as you may recall, you did previously approve an extension of the agreement with Kelly Wallace to help us with that transition. That process is ongoing but not complete. I think my prediction for you is that we may end up making a decision to have a hybrid system, and that is to use certain elements of our platform with Ubuntu, but there are some elements that we end up keeping SUSE. And we do have the ability to do that. We're actually operating in that circumstance right now. Myrna and Kelly and I are going to meet tomorrow to do a status report and decide, whether what we're doing right now is going to be more or less permanent, or whether we can make continued progress and completely get off of SUSE and into the Ubuntu platform. I don't know that we can, or I don't know that we can do it quickly. And part of the conversation with them is going to be, do we need to further extend the agreement that we have with Kelly, or do we need to say, okay, we're going to pause and take this up further at a different point in time? The positive news on this is that Kelly's burn rate has been substantially below what we budgeted. So we're not busting the budget, but it has taken longer than we projected. And this is probably something that I will want to discuss with the new Director Jamie, once she gets on board. But this may potentially be an action item at the March 11th meeting if we determine that we need to extend that arrangement a little bit further. And that's all I have, but I do want to be honest and open with you that it has not gone as quickly as we had hoped. And, we are reaching a juncture where we might have to say this is the new status quo, or we might decide, yes, we can get it done, but we're going to have to work on it for a little longer. So I don't have the answer today, but I hope to have it after tomorrow's meeting.
So just for my own clarification, so we will have Linux and another software.
We have Linux no matter what.
Okay.
It's just a question of which flavor of Linux we're working with. And one of them is called Ubuntu. Another one has the acronym SUSU. That I bet Jesse knows the answer to that. But
We might have
Don't
to
do that.
okay.
both of them.
We can have both of them. We have to have it. We have to have one of them operating in different parts of our system. Otherwise, things wouldn't work. Right now, we sort of have a dual hybrid situation. And we're going to have to decide whether that's going to be more or less permanent or whether we can complete the migration. I don't know the answer to that yet. But Linux is there no matter what. The basic Linux platform is still functioning.
Any other questions on that from those of us that are here in person or online? Just a quick update for legislative stuff. Stacy has texted Nick. He's gonna join us in a couple minutes. So
Okay,
can we
good.
take a quick 2-minute break?
Yes, we can.
So,
Lunch is here. If anyone wants to eat now, or they can wait till legislative updates and then eat. Up to you.
Okay. For those of you who are online, we're going to take about a 5-minute break. I'm going to keep the session open, but I will mute ourselves and would ask you to do the same. And please check back about 12:05 or so.
I've been sitting way too long.
Nick, I see you're online. I just let everybody take a 2-minute break.
Okay, perfect.
Hello, Nick.
Hey, Phil.
I appreciate you jumping in. So we'll stand by, and then you're at the top of the list. In fact, you're the last item on the agenda.
Oh, okay. You're almost done. Okay.
Yeah, we know. But, okay, so stand by. I'll be back. All right, Nick, and those of you who are online, we are going to restart here, and I'm going to hand it off to Jamie and Nick.
All right, so Nick, thank you for joining us a little early. We really appreciate it. I'm from Southwest Iowa and I've been advised to get on the road. So, can you give us a legislative update?
Yeah, thanks everybody, and appreciate flexibility with it being funnel week. So just got out of a committee hearing and have a few more this afternoon, so this timing works out. But yeah, I think the main, I'm going to just focus on the main issues that the recorders and Iowa Land Records have been engaged on so far this session. First is the recorder appointment provision as recorder, treasurer, and auditor appointment provision as outlined in the governor's property tax bill. We're getting a good response from the House that there's not a lot of interest on that proposal. However, there is a hearing on the Senate's version of the governor's property tax bill next Wednesday. And so far, Jordan and Julie are both planning to attend to testify at that meeting like we did on the House side. And we'll continue to make sure we're planting seeds that's not necessary. It doesn't save money, and it doesn't really move the needle in any way except take away voter voices. So we're going to continue to hammer away on that message. A couple other things. I'll end with House File 1031. So a couple other things. There's been some ATV bills out there. The House version that would have removed the recorder from the ATV process did not make the funnel deadline. They are going to wait for the Senate version that we so far do not have any concerns with. So the Senate version made the deadline. It just got renumbered today, so that updated number will be in the tracker that goes out tomorrow. And so we'll just continue to watch that to make sure there's no concerns. We did have a win early in session after a meeting with Jordan and Phil in the Secretary of State's office, doing some education of them on the address confidentiality program, and that their bill wouldn't do what they were expecting it to do. So they withdrew those bills. So they never even got a hearing. So we had a win early there. There's the district parcel bill. That Senator Sweeney introduced. This is building on Senate File 593 from last session. Her goal was not to make it a Beacon website posting issue. Her goal is to make getting the drainage district levy information on the abstract so that it's recorded and everybody's aware of it. So she's trying to do an implementation fix on Senate File 593 from last year. We've talked to the drainage district folks in ILTA as well as Senator Sweeney. The understanding is there will be an amendment coming on that bill, and we are plugged into the conversations there. The next legislation I'll talk about is there's been a lot of interest on the redaction program at the State House. And we've used those opportunities at those bill hearings and in meetings with legislators to educate on the difference between the current Back to Blue redaction program and what a shielding program would look like. And then we point them to the need for resources to implement a shielding program and point them to House File 1031. So we have been using those as drivers to House File 1031. So that brings me to House File 1031. That bill hasn't had much attention yet this session because it sits in the Senate Ways and Means Committee, having already passed the House. So it's funnel proof. That bill is alive till the end of session. The conversations we have had with Rep. Nordman and others is, yes, we want to get something done. There may need to be a conversation on the size of the fee. The bill at minimum does need to be amended to change the dates because it was last year's bill. The dates need to be adjusted. So there will be at least an amendment on that. And we've been told that the Senate will at least want to have a conversation on the fee, which we have had conversations on. Is that a mortgage cap or what is that amount? And we need to really work through that as the recorder and ESS leadership on what does that look like as we get further into the process. But the next step really is to push with Rep. Nordman to get that bill added to the Ways and Means calendar. again, attention will turn more to Ways and Means issues starting next week, now that the first funnel deadline will be behind lawmakers. Appreciate the leadership for the stats we found on the appointment provision and recorders. We've been using that with a lot of lawmakers, and it's made some good headway on preventing the appointment provision from moving forward. So feeling good there. I never make promises in the legislative process, however. Continue to do that drumbeat. And those are my main updates. I'm happy to answer any questions about bills that are out there or any other pieces.
Thank you, Nick. Are there any questions for the committee for Nick? I really appreciate, Nick, your work with the Recorders Association and ESS. I know you guys have put in a lot of time this session on issues that the recorders have had. So truly appreciate your time.
Oh, thanks, Jamie. And yes, I've joked with Jordan and some of the leadership. This is another recorder heavy year out there. So we're doing everything we can to represent you guys and flag things and try to respond as quickly as we can as the legislative process unfolds. So we're happy always if we miss something and you need to flag it or there's a concern, please share it. We, as you know, we know the ESS world really well, but you know, some of the tangential recorder things, you guys know this way better than we do. So if we miss something, please flag it for us, and we're happy to engage on those issues on your behalf. And Renee, you put a question in the chat. 1 second. Did the Senate property tax bill have the appointment provision in it, or just the House Gov bill? Oh, yeah, Renee. So the Senate also has two separate property tax bills. So they have their proposal, which is SSB 3001. And then the governor's bill, which the number is, 1 second here, SSB 3034, is the one that has the hearing next Wednesday. And that does have the appointment provision in it. Yeah, there's two separate ones over there too.
Any other questions for Nick?
Nick, I appreciate if you could hang on for just a couple more minutes. I don't have a question for you, but you may want to comment on something.
Okay, I can probably stick around for another, 5 to 10.
Okay, it won't take that long. So I do want to, before Nick leaves, I just want to, address a component of your packet. And if you're looking, it's found on page 153 and 154. And this is a memo that I prepared for you to consider. And I'm not asking for any action today, but I would just underscore something that Nick said. And that is that in order to move something forward, there needs to be serious discussion about the recording fee proposal. I know that there has been previous discussion that there's a desire to have House File 1031 approved with few amendments to ensure that whatever is sent back from the Senate would be found acceptable. We understand that fee policy change is a priority for recorders, but we cannot, in my opinion, ignore the messages that we get from the bankers associations and other stakeholder groups that just are not very comfortable with the size of the fee increase. Dating back to October of last year, work was done to prepare financial models that would show what the impact would be of having a cap on recording fees for mortgage documents. That really has been sitting there for a while, and for whatever reason, it hasn't really been pursued, it hasn't really had much traction. And I'm not sure that it's even been sufficiently presented to the Bankers Association and the Mortgage Association to even consider whether that would move the needle in terms of what their position is. So, okay, that's out there, but is there something else that could be considered? So nobody asked me to do this. I take responsibility for it, but I have also prepared an alternative that you might want to consider. And that is to say that House File 1031 is a very complicated bill. It has all kinds of things incorporated in it that honestly are hard to explain and frankly will be difficult to implement. So perhaps a more simplified alternative can be prepared that would provide a meaningful increase in income for recorders for counties and also ILR, but in a very uncomplicated way. A series of simple amendments that would just simply, as an example, increase the recording fee from $5 per page to $6 per page. And in addition to that, a proposal should be advanced that would increase the records management fee from $1 to $2 or $3. Not a big impact on the overall recording fee because it's per document, not per page. And then similarly, the current $1 fee for ESS and our land records, a simple increase from $1 to $2 would be meaningful to this organization's ability to provide further enhanced services, including the creation of the Back to Blue shielding program, which would be difficult for us to do without some source of additional revenue. And for those listening, there are ways to do this that will not inhibit the work of real estate attorneys, the participants in our title guarantee program, our land title professionals. It can be done successfully, but it can't be done without an investment. So this is intended to stimulate thinking and discussion and also preparation for what I would say is a likelihood that House File 1031 in its current form may not have a very good chance to advance in the Senate. So if you want something done, you need to be prepared to pivot. And I don't believe this message for me is any different than what I've been sharing with you for at least 6 months, if not longer. So I invite you to consider some variation of this as a simplified alternative that could be presented to the stakeholders as well as the leadership in the Senate and the House for possible consideration to get something done. So I'll be quiet. Nick, you can add whatever comments that you have, and otherwise I would defer to the committee for discussion.
We'll give Nick the floor here. I know he's on limited time. So Nick, if you have anything you would like to comment on that?
I would just say we have heard that there may need to be discussions on the fee. Rep. Nordman told me that about a week ago in a conversation. And then the dates will have to change. We will take the direction of how ESS and ICRA want to approach this issue. But yes, I do agree with the premise that there will be a discussion on the fee amount because we do continue to hear not anything, I wouldn't say anything concrete. You know, the bankers say we're for a reasonable, and I did air quotes there. You can't see me anymore because of the capital internet, but the fee increase. So there's going to be work on that. And we've heard that senators also have some hesitation with the size of the fee. So how you all want to navigate that and present in that conversation, But starting next week, we will try to move the needle with getting House File 1031 moving. And then we can have conversations on how to approach that going forward. But there is openness to that conversation is, I think, how I would frame this. But there will be definitely, I think the size of the fee for Senators Dawson and Webster in particular, and I know Stacy and Megan and others were in conversations last year, and Renee and others were in conversations where we heard that from senators on the size of the fee. So I think that is a consistent message that has transferred over to this session.
So Nick, this is Jamie. I'm going to use Bill's words for just a second. At what point do we allow 1031 to continue without pivoting? Like, is there a hard date that you can suggest to us that it might not move forward and we need to think about pivoting?
I'm going to guess what's going to happen, and this is just a guess because the legislative process is not very predictable, as you all know, but I'm going to guess we're going to go to Senator Dawson. Rep. Nordman's going to go to Senator Dawson. We're going to say, let's move 1031. Senator Dawson and his staff, Pam Dugdale, are going to say, all right, we need an amendment on the fee. And then that's going to really trigger conversations on how we approach that going forward.
So no like time frame that you can give me roughly.
No,
I just don't want it to be too late. Like I really do truly want something to happen for our association. And I think we all do believe that as well. We want to see 1031 pass. We don't want to lose the opportunity to get a fee increase for the association.
Rep. Norman told me he wanted to talk again after the funnel deadline. So the funnel deadline is tomorrow. So early next week, he will be on my short list to have a conversation, and then he and I can game plan how we ask the Senate to move forward.
Thank you. Before Nick leaves, is there any other questions for him from the ESS committee? All right. Thank you, Nick. I really appreciate your time and your willingness to hop on earlier than you planned.
Yeah, no worries. And everybody drives safe. I hear we're getting snow. I'm stuck in the Capitol, so I don't know anything about that, but everybody drive safe.
Thank you,
Nick. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks all.
Okay. Any further discussion? I know, Bill's given us something to think about. I truly feel like we also want 1031 to continue, and Nick's advice was to get us past funnel week so he can talk to Nordman, and then perhaps we can pivot, as Phil says, if necessary. We're still gonna work on this 1031. Julie and Jordan have done a great job. Legislative session, a mouthful for some reason. So,
Thank you. I think that conversation can be fruitful in that conversation. We can have some conversation about an alternative. I think it's a good idea to be prepared, be proactive.
Okay. For those of you online, I don't know if you quite heard Julie. She was speaking softly, but she said it's a good idea to maybe start thinking about an alternative just in case. That we could all, I don't know if we're all going to agree on it, but we can only hear what we hear that's coming from our lobbyists and from our stakeholders. And that's what we've been hearing. That's what Stacy heard last year. Mm-hmm. And so I just think that we have to be ready for an alternative and be ready for an answer should that come up.
Well, I sent out this packet to my district a couple days ago, and I did get a couple responses. There were some people who were, wanted to reiterate that they thought we, weren't going to amend this and stuff. And I understand their sentiments, but I think something is better than nothing. So, I just think we all need to be open-minded about this process because it's not black and white. It never has been. It's something that's subject to change at any moment. And we've been I've been attending these ESS meetings since I was a deputy in Marshall County, clear back in 2009. We've been trying to get some more funds for this project, more money for recorders since long before then. My thoughts are, if we have the opportunity to get something, anything more than we're getting now, that we should pursue that. I mean, if the alternative is, well, this is another year where we struck out, let's everybody go back home and regroup. I'm tired of doing that. I mean, I think we all are. I'd like to think we all are. I think we're all on board with the provision of if people want out of the 28E, they get out of the 28E. It's not like we're trying to strike that, but there may be some, we may have to do something. We may have to defer to those that are down there because things move very fast. We've all seen things get hammered into a standing bill at the end of the session as well. And there's no time to react when something like that happens. So, I just want to say I've heard the people in my district that reached out to me. I completely understand. I think we need to try and get something, anything more than we get now. And if that's the way it goes, that's the way it goes. But I don't think anybody's trying to be deceitful or anything like that in this whole process. I really believe that the people that we have representing us are doing the absolute best that they can. And I wouldn't want to be down there. So I appreciate their work. I appreciate their insight. I appreciate Phil bringing these alternative solutions that we may have to look at. I think we just all need to band together and try to get something done. What that is remains to be seen, but I mean, I feel that's the best path for us as an entire association. And I'll shut my 2 cents up. That was about 6 cents. But.
Thank you.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks, Travis. I appreciate that. It has been, when we did take that vote on February 10th, we tried to keep what the association had voted on as spring school. And it was a very difficult vote for all of us, for some of the yeses and some of the no's. So I just feel like we need to be prepared, and we need to have an alternative to provide to the Senate. And if I don't know where we get that permission, or I don't know who. I'm hoping that we have that permission to do that from what we can see and what we can see is going on, and from events that happen on that particular day. It changes daily down there. It changes daily, and our outlook changes daily. So I appreciate your support, and I just feel like we should just be ready to make that change if we have to.
Thank you, Julie. Kathy Boyd also posted in our chat. I did snip this out to send on to you later, but she said that $8 would be a good number for us, and her senator said to try to write something in to increase every so many years, so we do not have to go through this every 10 to 20. So I did snip that out, and I'll send that to you just so you can keep it with your notes.
All right, thank you.
As one of our legislative liaisons. Okay, anything else on this topic?
Yes, this is Natalie. So where, like you talked about, summer or spring school, where I'm associating, it was voted spring school, to move forward with no changes. So how do we uphold that or hold that versus make amendments and changes?
Well, first of all, we had to make the change for the date. So there's an amendment there. And then we did the clarification on the number of documents. And that's really out. And that's how the executive board voted on February 10th. We didn't change anything else. I think what our purpose was at the very, very beginning, we had to fight the appointment by the board of supervisors. That really was the biggest fight that we had to get through in case, because once that happened, if that got passed, then there's no reason for anything else. Really. So
I guess my question would be more for like the amendment that has been proposed. How we decide we get nothing because it goes nowhere, or either as the association, the legislative, committee, ESS, like.
I mean, this bill, what's the number? Sorry, 1031. If it ends up, dead in the water, it's not a change to 1031. It's something completely new. If it is what I would assume would be, have to happen. So it's not like we're, they're not leaving. It's not like changes are being made to 1031. If 1031 is dead, then, we have to pursue another avenue somehow if we want to get something done. So.
I mean, I guess without having to make a phone call to 99 different counties, right? Is that what you're talking about? Right. Like, I would guess that Jordan and I and our support system, we have Stacy, we got Megan, we have Nick. I think we'll take those advisements up and then we'll proceed. And I'm hoping that we don't get lynched.
At the end of the day, we did vote on Jordan and Julie to represent the Reporters Association, be our legislative liaisons. And I mean, as the exec board and also the coordinating committee sitting here and online, I feel like we should be taking their advisement under consideration if we do want to move 1031 forward. And to me, the truth of the matter is, like, we're not the only ones that can suggest amendments. It can be anyone, truly. So do we be proactive and suggest the date change and clarification and wait to see what anybody else recommends? I mean, it's just a moving target for anyone, is my understanding.
What if we get the basic scope of what is in 1031, but the fees aren't the same, and we have the opportunity to do that instead of nothing? I mean, obviously, I'm not going to call for a poll of that, but I would like to think that most reasonable minds would say something's better than nothing, is it not?
Correct.
I mean, that's kind of where I sit on this whole deal. Is part. I know I keep hammering. I've said this like 3 times, but if we can't do what we intended to do, wouldn't most reasonable people think that something, if we could get something, and it doesn't change the basic framework, people can get out of the 2080, but we get a little bit more money for the project, for our own county coffers, because we're all going to start feeling the squeeze pretty soon at the county level. So anything that we could do to help fund our offices is going to be beneficial for us, especially us in the small counties. I mean, that's primarily who I'm speaking to here, but I feel like if we get something, why not?
And we'll hopefully we'll make a compromise somewhere along the line, and between all of us, we'll try to figure out what we feel is going to go. I think that with the shielding program out there, we've been getting more positive more positive opinions about increasing the fee, because we need more resources in order to get the shielding. So that's all of the state where they're all behind that. So I kind of think there's a little bit more positivity towards the increase in fees, and we're just going to have to feel for it. And we're going to hope that Nick will give us some guidance too on what he's hearing. So, and he just mentioned that today, that the shielding thing has been a positive thing to go forward.
And I want to say, I'm not questioning, I guess, anything that you guys are doing. I would not want to be in your shoes. So I appreciate everybody that is doing that. I just want to make sure, I mean, we have to continue to have legislation reps. People aren't going to want to step up to do this if you get backlash, everything that's changed. So I guess my question was more, how do you know when it's okay to put these amendments through? I don't, I'm sorry, I'm not explaining.
I know what you're saying. We're trying to maintain that this is what the association voted. So that's the changes that we ended up recommending as an executive board. Those two simple changes. One of them was a clarification and one of them was changing the date. That obviously had to happen. So all I'm saying is that when you are walking in these legislative shoes, you have to be able to pivot if need be.
It wasn't reasonable to ask you to vet it with 99 different counties.
Exactly. So we can't call a meeting, can't call a special meeting, can't call a special election. So I guess what we've learned something is that those our legislative liaisons have got to be given that opportunity and have to be given that ability to pivot if need be. We can't say when you go up there, it's not black and white and there's nothing it changes every second, every day. So you have the people that you vote for have trust in them and believe that they're the people that can do that. You have to give it, it's kind of like everything else. You voted for them. You voted for those liaisons and you picked people. And I'm telling you that in Jordan and Nick, you had good people. Really, really good people.
Thank you.
It's baptism by fire for me, but
the association at the end of the day has voted on the executive board, the Iowa County Recorders Association Executive Board and the ESS Coordinating Committee to do the best for
the good of the order.
The good of the order. Thank you, Julie. Just trust us is, I guess, what we're asking for at the end of the day is trust that we are trying to make the best decisions on everyone's behalf.
So am I hearing that we are granted the ability to pivot if need be on the fees? And we'll do the best we can.
We obviously don't speak for everybody, but
we would come to the executive board, of course, and offer that. But I guess
I think
that's why we have leadership. I feel, that's why we have an executive board. That's why we have a governing board. That's why we have a chair of this committee. There's
guardrails.
I feel like you guys are more than qualified to do what you need to do, but that's my 2 cents on it.
So
I totally trust you.
I agree.
What's in our best interest. I think we all should trust you.
we're being asked to consider which fees are we interested in increasing. That's records management, ESS fees, along with our base recording fees. I'm under the assumption right now that it is all fees. But we'll try to just bump up a little bit if necessary and pivot. So is that what everybody's in the understanding of?
Yeah, I don't think that we haven't really discussed the alternative right now. Our director, Phil, has given us something to think about and something to discuss. I think it's a great suggestion. I don't want to put too much in there that would cause it to be muddied. All we really want to get the fees. And if all we have to do to make somebody happy over there is to decrease what we're asking for and maybe find a way in the middle. I'd like to find a way in the middle. If maybe a little bit more than 6 if we think so, but I think it's all how we get the feedback that we get.
Sure. Thank you. Okay. Anything else on this topic? Lots of comments regarding appreciation for our legislative liaison. So again, thank you. Thanks for the comments on that. So, okay. That being said, I think we have mastered the agenda.
Thank you, Jamie.
And I am calling for an adjournment of this meeting. So thank you guys. For those of you who attended in person and online, really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
See you March 11th.
Yes, March 11th.
And
I
don't know if we finalized the time specifically yet, so.
We will be in touch.
Yeah.
About that.
Perfect. Perfect.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna.
Take care.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of your week.